Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
What's going on, everybody? It is Motivation Monday. Yes, the weekend is over. It's over. But we are here at a new week. We are here at a new opportunity to get this thing going and get it right and structured the way it should be. And what is that thing I'm talking about? I'm talking about your gifts. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your gifts. Today's show, we're talking about your gift needs definition before it needs exposure. Man, we're here to help people reach their defined level of success by discovering and developing their gifts. If you know me, if you've been listening to me, I've been talking about this for the last 20 years about purpose and gifts and development. This is not just inspiration, people. This is alignment. This is structure. This is execution. Because having a gift is not enough. If it's not developed, it will be underused. If it's not managed, it will be inconsistent. And if it's not positioned correctly, it would never produce at the level it was designed to. This week right here, we are stepping into a higher level of thinking. This whole week right here, I had to theme it out. This theme is engineering the environment where your gift can function at a high level. Because your next level is not in what you have. It's in how what you have is built, structured, and sustained. And we're grounding this in wisdom of Solomon. Y'all know Solomon. Solomon asked for wisdom. Yes, he did. But let's look at 1 Kings 3, verses 9. Give, therefore, thy servant an understanding heart. See, Solomon didn't ask for more opportunity. He asked for the capacity to manage what he already had. He understood that greatness is not given fully developed. It is built through wisdom, structure, and intentional execution. So today, we're not chasing exposure. We're not chasing attention. We're not chasing opportunity. We are building something deeper. Because if you don't define your gift, you would never direct it. And if you can't direct it, you would never maximize it. So today we start here. Your gift, listen to what I'm saying. Your gift needs definition before it needs exposure. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Join us on this heavenly journey, one song at a time, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and it is Motivation Monday here on Wave Radio. And we are talking about your gift needs definition before it needs exposure. Let's talk about the danger of an undefined gift. Let's start here, because this is where most people are operating. You're gifted, you have ability, you have potential, but you're not defined. And when you're not defined, everything about your movement become inconsistent. One day you're focused, the next day you're scattered. One week you're locked in, the next week you're distracted. And the truth is, it's not a discipline problem first, it's a definition problem. What do you mean, sir? Hey, I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you. Because when something is not clearly defined, your mind has to constantly interpret what you're doing and why you are doing it and how you're supposed to do it. And guess what? That creates mental friction, and that friction slows down execution. And listen to me. And here's what makes it dangerous. You can operate like this for years and still feel like you're making progress because you're busy. But busyness without definition is just movement without direction. You can be everywhere and still not arrive anywhere. That's why some people feel like they've been working for years, but nothing has actually moved forward in a measurable way. Because nothing was ever clearly defined enough to build on. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
Hey, you're tuned in on this Monday afternoon, this great Monday. What happened yesterday? It got cold all of a sudden. Well, I'm gonna say in North Carolina, it got cold. Went in church Sunday, came out, it was already chilly. That happened a couple of Sundays, man. But that must be the aroma, the atmosphere of the Holy Spirit. Say, hey, we going in one way, we're coming out in another way. Well, let's talk about clarity is a measurable advantage. We're moving from feelings to facts. Research shows that clarity is not just helpful, it's a performance multiplier. Studies on goal setting have shown that when goals are specific and clearly defined, performances increase in the majority of cases. And even more powerful, people who write down their goals and define them clearly are significantly more likely to achieve them. So, what does that tell us? I'm glad you asked. It tells us that clarity is not optional at high levels. Clarity removes hesitation, it increases speed, it improves consistency. And when you know exactly what you're building, you stop negotiating with distraction. And this is where most people underestimate the power of precision. They'll say things like, I just want to grow. I just want to be successful. I just want to do more. But none of that is measurable. And if it's not measurable, it's not manageable. High-level performers don't deal in generality. They deal in specifics. They define what growth looks like, what success looks like, what progress looks like. Because once it's defined, it can be tracked, adjusted, and improved. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Let's talk about Solomon's request. If y'all listen to me, y'all should know who Solomon is in the Bible. Let's talk about Solomon's request. It was strategic. It wasn't nothing in his feelings. He had no feelings about it. It was strategic. Okay. You want to know why it was strategic? Okay, let's go a little deeper. Solomon didn't just make a spiritual request. He made a strategic request. He understood the weight of what he was called to lead. And instead of asking for results, he asked for the ability. Listen to what I'm saying. The ability to produce results consistently. That's a different level of thinking. Because many people today are asking God for bigger platforms, more money, more visibility. But Solomon asked for discernment, judgment, and understanding. Because he knew if he could think right, he could lead right. And if he could lead right, everything else would follow. And what makes this even more powerful is that Solomon was young when he asked for this, which means he didn't wait until things broke down to seek wisdom. He sought it before the pressure increased. That's how high-level builders move. They prepare for what's coming before it arrives. They don't wait for failure to teach them what discipline could have prevented. And I'm gonna say this again. They don't wait for failure to teach them what discipline could have prevented. And that's what we're doing this week. We're not reacting to life. We're preparing to lead it. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Motivation Monday, and we're talking about your gift needs definition before it needs exposure. Let's look at movement without clarity. And I'm gonna tell you, movement without clarity, it can be expensive. And I'm not talking about just costing you money. No. Let's talk about something real. You can be moving every day and still not be progressing, because movement without clarity is expensive. It costs you what? Time, energy, focus, opportunities. You could spend years doing things that don't align with your assignment. Clarity turns activity into advancement. And here's the part people don't like to hear. You don't always lose through failure. Sometimes you lose through misalignment. You say yes to things that look good, but don't build anything meaningful. And over time, those small misaligned decisions compound. Now you're invested in time, effort, and energy into something that was never connected to your assignment. That's why clarity is protection. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. How many of you are right now? And I want you to be honest. You ain't got to raise your hand. Just like, yeah, me. Raise it in your mind. How many of you all are facing decision fatigue? Yes, a lot of people face decision fatigue. It is real, people. Now, let's talk about what's happening mentally. Every decision you make pulls from a limited pool of mental energy. So when your life and your gifts are not clearly defined, you are constantly making unnecessary decisions. What should I do today? Should I take this opportunity? Is this the right move? And by the time it's time to make a real decision, you're mentally drained. That's why undefined people feel overwhelmed. Not because they have too much to do, but because they have too much to figure out. And this is why you see high-level leaders simplify their lives. They don't simplify it because they can't handle complexity. They simplify it so that they can handle complexity where it matters most. They remove unnecessary decisions, low-level distractions, and things that don't move the mission forward, because they understand that mental energy is a resource. And if you waste it on small things, you won't have enough for the big things. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. It is Motivation Monday. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Let's talk about clarity conserves energy. Yes, it does. When you are clear, your mind shifts from deciding to executing. You don't wake up wondering what matters. You already know. And that's where productivity increases, because you're not spending time interpreting your day. You're stepping into it with intentions. That's how high performers move. They don't waste energy on low-level decisions. They preserve it for high-level execution. And when you preserve that energy consistently, something powerful happens. Your confidence increases. Because now you're not second guessing every move, you're moving with direction. And direction builds momentum. And momentum builds belief. That's how you start operating at a high level. Not just because you're capable, because you're clear. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Bringing the sounds of heaven 24/7, Wave Radio.
What's going on, good people? I hope you are enjoying your Monday. I know some of y'all might have had a hard weekend. Some of y'all might have had some sickness in your body, dealing with family issues. But can I say this? You are already victorious. Don't allow what you're going through to imprison you, because Jesus died on the cross so that you can be free. The Bible said the battle is the Lord's, it's not yours. So have enough faith. Only a mustard seed of faith, and believe that God is going to get you through this. Because I'm going to tell you, some of y'all are trying to get through this yourselves, and you're not going to get through this yourselves. It's God through Jesus Christ that's going to get you through this. All right. Let's talk about high level thinking requires structure. Yeah, you know I was leading somewhere because deliverance, it requires structure. Let's evaluate this. High level people don't just think. They think in systems. They have frameworks for decisions, standards for execution, structures for their time. So when something comes their way, they don't react emotionally. They evaluate it strategically. Does this align? Does this move me forward? Does this fit the system I built? That's clarity in action. And this is where discipline becomes easier because you're not relying on willpower anymore. You're relying on structure, and structure reduces mistakes because you're not making every decision from scratch. You're making decisions from a framework that's already been established. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. If you can't articulate it, you haven't defined it. Here's a simple test. Can you clearly explain what you do, who you serve, what results you produce without confusion? If not, your gift is still in development, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because clarity produces language, and language produces alignment. And this matters more than people realize, because confusion don't just affect you, it affects how others experience you. If people have to guess what you do, they won't engage. If people have to figure out, they won't commit. Clarity creates confidence, not just in you, but in others. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
Hey, you're tuned in to Wave Radio, and you are listening to the Afternoon Praise, one of the hottest shows on the radio in the afternoon. What I'm going to say, through the day, Monday through Friday. And I have to say thank you for making this show great. Thank you for suggesting this show to your family and friends. Without you, this show wouldn't be number one, but I thank you. All right. But let's talk about undefined gifts attract misalignment. When you're not clear, everything looks like an opportunity, and that's dangerous. Because now you're saying yes to things that don't align with your assignment. And over time, that creates burnout, frustration, and inconsistency. Clarity gives you the power to say no with confidence. And every time you say yes to something misaligned, you are saying no to something that actually mattered. That's the hidden cost. And it's not just what you're doing, it's what you're delaying. Clarity helps you to protect your future by being selective in your present. I'm telling you, this is important. I've said yes to things I should have said no to that kept me in a season that I shouldn't have been in, cost me money that I should have been making and I shouldn't have been spending, cost me relationships that I could have been building. So what I'm telling you, I've been through this here. I've been through this. And you don't need to go through this if you haven't been going through it. But I know if you're listening, we've all been through this. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Motivation Monday. We're talking about your gift needs definition before it needs exposure. And let's talk about you must define your level of success. That level of success is your target. Let me bring this home for you. What does success actually look like for your life? Not social media, not culture, not comparison. You. What are you building? Because if you don't define your success, you will spend your life chasing someone else's. And the danger in that is you can achieve something and still feel unfulfilled because you built something that was never yours to begin with. Defined success creates alignment between your work, your purpose, your fulfillment. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
What's going on, good people? You got a request, you got a shout out, I got you. Hit me up on the Business Point Guard on Instagram or Demetrius L. Brown on Facebook. I got you. I want to hear from you. Let me know where you're listening from. All right. Let's talk about execution requires structure. This is where many people fall off. They have vision, but no system. And without structure, execution becomes inconsistent. You need defined actions. When you move, how you move, what triggers movement. That's how execution becomes automatic instead of emotional. Because if you leave execution up to how you feel, hey, you will only perform when you're motivated. But if you build structure, you perform whether you feel like it or not. And that's where consistency is born. When I do this show, if you notice, I do a show from 2 to 6. After 6 p.m., guess what? You can go to the playback and listen to the playback minus the music of the show. Before I release the show, I put an article out on all social media platforms. Then after the show, I release 2 videos or just promoting the show. That's my system. So from one show, I do an article on all social media platforms. I take the show when it's over with, I turn it into a video form and I put it on all the platforms, being from YouTube, all iHeart and all those platforms. And I also do 2 videos promoting. That's my system. I put the show in a structure. So anything outside of that, I don't do. Because I have to operate in a structure just like you do so that you can be consistent. And if you go to my page, you can see where consistency started. Because it was a point that I was just doing the show and I wasn't doing the things to push and promote and to, have follow up for the show. And you can see on my page when that started to be consistent. And that's what this is all about, putting a structure together so that people can see consistency. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Let's talk about your environment. Your environment, it really matters. Your environment is driving your results. You might not think so, but it is. And let's be honest. Your environment is either helping you win or helping you stay stuck. Your habits, your schedule, your circle, your systems. And all of that is shaping your output. So if your results are off, don't just look at your efforts, look at your environment. Because environment influence, and influence shapes behavior. So if you want different results, you need a different structure, not just for effort. You have to choose your environment, the people you hang around with, the people you work with, the people you're allowing to take your time. You have to change your environment, people. And you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
Yes, y'all. You don't stop, and you don't quit. How many of y'all watched the drafts this weekend? Man, I love the Dallas Cowboys. That's my team. We picked up some defensive backs, which is good. And, hopefully we go to a Super Bowl this year. I say it every year. My family, my friends, they be like, man, you say that every year, man. Y'all ain't going to Super Bowl. Guess what? Everybody say that. If you got a team, you got to push your team. You got to say, hey, I'm going to the Super Bowl because right now it's a clean slate. Anybody can go to the Super Bowl, but I'm a Dallas fan, people. Yeah. Okay. Let's get back to business. See, systems sustain what motivation starts. You know what I'm saying? So I'm motivated right now that we might go to Super Bowl. But if that team don't put a winning system together, it's just motivation. But system sustains what motivation starts. Motivation can get you started, but it cannot carry you the long term. Systems do that. Systems create consistency, rhythm, and repeatable success. That's how you build something that lasts. And when systems are in place, progress becomes predictable. You're no longer hoping things work. You're building something that is designed to work. You know, I was speaking in the beginning when I became the campus director. My Bishop Brown J. Pierce, he has a cadence. And I noticed everybody who worked close to him understood that cadence. So when I became campus director, that's when I became working close with him. And I know Bishop Ketchens pulled me to the side when he first started. He said, D, I want you to pay attention. I want you to pay attention to Bishop's cadence. I want you to stay by his side because he's going to do things. He might need you at that moment. He might want to say something. He might need you to do something. You have to pay attention to his cadence. And that's what systems are all about. Having rhythm. His cadence produces rhythm. His systems produces cadence. And guess what? Our church, our leadership, we have repeatable success. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to Motivation Monday, and we're talking about your gift needs definition before it needs exposure here on the Afternoon Praise. But let's talk about God moves through order. Let's talk about God. Okay. If you don't hear anything else I said today, let's talk about God. God moves through order. God is not random. He's intentional. Everything he does have structure. So when your life is out of order, it becomes difficult to operate at a high level. Clarity aligns you with order, and order positions you for impact. And when you align with order, you reduce confusion. And when confusion is reduced, execution increases. That's how spiritual alignment and practical execution comes together. People, listen to me. God moves through order. It's nothing confusing or nothing random about God. Get to that place that you are hearing the voice of God. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. My time is almost up, but hey, we got a little time left. So if you got to request a shout out, hit me up and I got you. All right. Let's talk about define before you expand. Before you build more, define what you already have. Before you scale, clarify your foundation, because expansion without clarity leads to collapse. And many people are trying to grow something that isn't sustainable yet, but growth exposes weaknesses. So if the foundation isn't clear, expansion will reveal it. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
My time is up. It's been great. It's been lovely. But guess what? I want to close with this. I need for you to look at Proverbs 4, verse 7. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. Solomon asked for wisdom, and because of that, he built something that carried weight, influence, and legacy. So here's your shift today. Stop asking for more opportunities and start defining what you've already been given. Because the truth is this: your gift is not the issue, your environment is. And this week, we are not just discovering who we are building the structure that allow it to operate at the highest level. And if you take this seriously, this will change how you move starting today. You'll stop reacting and start building. You'll stop guessing and start defining. You'll stop waiting and start engineering the life your gifts require. A defined gift produces consistent results. A undefined gift produces unnecessary struggle. Let's stop struggling, people. Hey, I want to thank you for joining me today on Motivation Monday. And remember, you have to define your level of success. You have to define your gift. I am out of here. I will see you tomorrow on Triumph Tuesday. Peace.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.